There's a reason this DLC has its own section. It's essentially Hollow Knight's combat in its purest form. This boss rush level, full of tougher versions of every boss in the game, is where half my hours of gameplay came from. I think we all know that the difficulty here isn't just from having to fight harder versions of past bosses, but also having to fight multiple of them, back to back, with barely any time to heal or take a breather, outside those little pit stop rooms. Plus, every Pantheon was capped off with a brand new boss for us to fight, meaning new attack patterns to analyze and adapt to. This gave me very little time to recharge my mental batteries, my reaction time dwindling with each fight. This made Got Home by far the biggest challenge I had ever faced, spending weeks trying to beat these insanely difficult boss rushes, dying to the same bosses over and over for days. I had never felt such a level of rage and exhaustion before. It was almost agony, and once again, I considered giving up. But as I said before, I'm too stubborn to quit. But that didn't change the fact that I had essentially hit a brick wall. I needed a way to improve on individual bosses, so that way I would be ready for them in the Pantheons, and that's where the Hall of Gods came in. Team Cherry must have known we needed a way to practice boss fights, because this edition was crucial in my journey to beat the Godmaster DLC. When I first entered that room, I thought of it as nothing but an extra feature with nothing but replay value, like all other games do. But after returning there after struggling with the Pantheons for so long, I realized that it wasn't just some useless room. It was a key part of beating the DLC. That's what makes this game and its combat so special. Every part of it has a purpose, a reason for being included, each with their own part to play in your journey through Hollow Nest, a level of attention to detail that I had never seen, before or since. I started to fight each boss individually, replaying the fights I was struggling on over and over, until I was able to beat the boss fight multiple times in a row. It got to the point where I was spending hours replaying the Pure Vessel fight, not stopping until I had beaten him 5 times in a row, though that could have just been because I enjoyed the fight so much. This was the first time I'd actively practiced in a game, honing my skills and improving my reflexes and strategies until I felt I was confident enough I could beat the bosses in the Pantheon. This training room was key to me eventually beating the Pantheon of Hollow Nest, unlocking absolute radiance to practice within the hall, feeling almost as good as when I screamed in pure joy as I watched her get dragged into the void after the hardest battle of my life. This DLC is what makes Hollow Knight's combat truly unique. It takes the already challenging bosses of the base game, makes them even stronger, and puts them in a boss rush alongside new bosses, yet somehow it's able to precisely adjust the combat difficulty to be just balanced enough that it pushes the players to break their limits, rather than breaking the players. The Godmaster DLC showed me what Hollow Knight was all about. Video game combat at